it, dare it, do it, live the life you want. I'm Jasmine, and I'm the host, as you guys know. And today I'm so happy to have Dave Elleray back with me. Hi, Dave.
Hiya, Jasmine. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Very well, thank you.
So, everyone, Dave came to see me 3 years ago. So if you want to go see that conversation, we had a beautiful conversation, but so many things have changed for him since he got married, he got a baby. So he's come and we're just gonna have a chat. So how does it feel to be married and a dad?
Exhausting.
How old is the baby now?
Exhausted. She's coming up 3. She's
Ah,
she's waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, I'm awake. And then just going insane till about 6 o'clock when she falls back to sleep. So yeah, we're knackered. We're kind of running on fumes, but we're all right.
yeah.
We're all right. I think we are.
Good. My dog wants to see you. Okay.
Hello, friend.
She's like, wait,
Hello.
are we having a conversation, Jasmine? I wasn't invited.
Oh, Rusty died since we last spoke. My little
Oh,
died. My little lad.
yeah, she's my best friend. She's like
Oh, they're
always
wonderful.
there all the time.
Wonderful.
She's hilarious. If I do anything on camera, she has to be there. So
Bless her. What's she called, Jasmine?
she's called Beauty, which is
Forte.
beauty in French.
Nice.
Beauty.
Forte. Lovely.
So let me. We were talking off camera, and one of the things that, so everybody, you guys know that I speak with a bunch of coaches, and I speak with a lot of people who are in this conversation of, you know, what it is to be human, the inside out understanding, the 3 principles, whichever works for you. Um, and and we are all wanting to, I think you said it in before we talked, before we recorded, you said we want to shift the consciousness of the world, or we're guiding people towards that anyways. And what I was mentioning to Dave was how we're all trying to, okay, I'm going to use these words. We're all trying to get people to hear this message that we're sharing, and it's not something that, people would rather hear about, some car accident that just happened, or some dog video that just happened, than listen to a deep conversation about seeing something new. And so I wanted to talk about that with Dave. Like, what do you see in your world when it comes to the desires of deep conversations?
I see a shift taking place right now. I've been watching this for the last, I don't know, probably 10 years. I've been aware of it. I think I started noticing the kids are different. Like speaking to my nieces and nephews and stuff and their mates, and listening to them talk about people. There might have been a gay kid at school. I'd say, how do they get on? What do you mean? Well, did they get any flack? Did they get their asses kicked? What? Like, did they get any trouble for being gay? How did they get on at school? Fine. And I've noticed that the kids they appear to me more tolerant than my generation when we were young. Because if a kid had been gay, openly gay in our school, they'd have got their asses kicked. So there's been this, I noticed that there seems to be a difference. There's a shift taking place within people. And I was just saying to you, Jasmine, off camera, the spiritual conversation has really been dominated by women, predominantly, like those who are interested in in a spiritual conversation have generally been feminine, and but starting to see more and more like burly blokes, like big burly blokes, like men who you wouldn't normally look at and go, yeah, you'd be interested in esoteric conversation, you'd be interested in a spiritual conversation, you'll be interested in love. Seeing these men actually seek you out, getting humble, putting aside their manly egos, that as a man who's grown up with a very manly ego and found myself in prison and being violent a lot and being a hard man, like but having experienced what that's like, to see these men actually seeking you out, I know that's quite I know if that's taking place, there's a shift taking place. So you know, this was never on my to-do list in my life up until I was 33. Wasn't wasn't helping people wake up. That's how I see my job. Like it was something that just happened to me. And when it happened to me, when I found what I found about life, I instantly knew what I wanted to do with my life. And it was very, very difficult at the time because I was a tree surgeon. I had no qualifications. I failed my college course. I had no qualifications. My only qualifications were with a chainsaw, a wood chipper, and a rope and harness. So I'm fully qualified to dismantle trees, climb trees, do all that kind of work. But those kind of qualifications don't transpose onto any other industry. If you work with a chainsaw, you're cutting wood. You know,
Yeah.
the only other use of a chainsaw I'm actually aware of is kind of in the fire brigade. They have a chainsaw that can cut roofs off vehicles and stuff like that, but it's going to be few and far between.
Well, you
Um,
have ice carvers.
you've got ice carvers,
There you
absolutely.
go.
See, we lack ice. That's our problem. Um, so yeah, it was a very difficult time for me. But when I woke up, when I had my awakening, when I saw through the illusion of it all, it was like I found my path. And what I've noticed is that when you find the path, your path, whatever that looks like to you, and you help the next person, that next person wants to go out and help the next person, wants to go out and help the next person, wants to go out and help the next person. People who come across this conversation, I know very few people who've come across it and not wanted to share it. And I think that's a really, really beautiful example of human consciousness shifting. To me, when humanity starts working together in love as opposed to in competition, then you know that something's taking place on this planet. Love's always been the most powerful force in the universe. Always has been. It's the unified field. It's the unifying force of life. It's that gives birth to everything. It is the existence of life itself. Nothing can ever overtake that. However, we do have the capacity within our being as a creator being, as a unique expression of divine love, with the infinite potential of thought within ourself, the infinite moldable force that we give the word thought to, and then somehow falsely assume we know what we're talking about. We have the capacity to create suffering, and through our suffering, we create all the misdeeds on the planet that aren't really kind, loving in nature, or in alignment with who and what we truly are. But more and more, I'm starting to see that this shift is taking place. It is absolutely taking place. And I'm one of these insanely bonkers people who's so optimistic for humanity. I'm so optimistic for this world. There's a
What?
lot of fear at the moment, but I think this world's heading on a trajectory of unification. And just to be able to play a small part in that, it's a real honor. It really is. It's a real honor.
So let me ask you. So you say you woke up, right? And you like to help people wake up. So can you explain to my listener what you mean by that? Like, are people sleeping?
Oh, I don't know.
I think I understand what you're saying because I feel like, when I hear wake up, it's kind of like there was something that was hidden from my view because this is how I experienced it. There was just something hidden from my view, and all of a sudden my eyes opened and
Mm,
I kind of saw
mm,
something that was transformative, that made everything look different all of a sudden.
yep, absolutely. You know, I don't know what I'm talking about. I say that so often. To me, this is all still an enormous, the whole thing's a mystery. But I'm all right with that. There's an ignorance in knowing.
Mm.
Knowing, knowing is the pursuit of an intellect more often than not. If I am perfectly honest, what I found I can't describe, I can't articulate. It's real. It's more real than this reality right here, but I can't talk about it. I can't explain it. I remember it, but it's only like only like a photograph of a scene now. But I remember it. I remember the scene. To me, when I woke up, I call it an awakening. And I'll tell you why I call it an awakening. It was because it was like I stood on planet Earth for the first time. I was 33 years old. I'd lived some life. But it was like all of a sudden there was a reason, a rationale behind my presence on Earth. There was a spiritual commitment, I suppose, to life itself, to the experience of life. I call it an awakening because if you're fast asleep in bed, you're tucked up in bed. We all do this. Each night we go to bed. And most of us dream. We dream realities. We dream experiences. Some of these experiences are so real, we don't know we're dreaming. The body doesn't know it's dreaming. The body doesn't know it's fast asleep. So, for example, if you were to be chased by somebody you are afraid of in your dream, your body will respond with a stress response. You will most likely waken up full of adrenaline, cortisol, your heart will be pounding. You may have made noises in your sleep. You may have moved your body in an attempt to get away. Your body doesn't know the difference between the awake state and the sleep state. And that's quite easily explained. That's because there is no real difference between the awake state and the sleep state. When I'm talking about awake in this instance and sleep in this instance, I'm talking about fast asleep in bed and awake right like I am right here, right now, in the daytime with my senses alive and the eyes, my awareness, the sound and everything going on. You. So In the same way as when I'm asleep and I dream, my body responds. When I'm awake, my body responds in exactly the same way. There aren't two means by which to have an experience. The same force, thought, consciousness creates the dream state when we're asleep in bed, in the same way as thought consciousness creates the dream state as when we're awake during the diurnal times. It's the same mechanism at play. Again, this clearly explains why we're all dreaming a different dream, where you can dream one dream from one moment to another dream to another moment. You can go from one experience in one moment, you can go from so fucked off and angry in one moment to being, oh, it's gone, oh, just let that go, relax. In another moment, or the other way around, or vice versa, or anything. So to wake up spiritually, I liken it to seeing beyond the illusion of the dream. Suddenly waking up and realizing it is a dream. Suddenly waking up and realize I'm creating that I experience. I'm dreaming it. Without consciousness, there is no dream. Without the power of thought, there is no dream. Without the mind, there is no dream. But the dream is all I ever experience. The dream is the reality I encounter as my own personal life, the unique expression of reality that is mine from this point of consciousness. But to wake up spiritually was to see the divine law, blueprint, if you like, of realizing beyond the veil of this experience. There is a beyond the veil of this experience. There is that creates. We are so attached to what's being created, my name, my character, my story, my likes, dislikes. But there is something that creates the experience. And whatever that is, it is utter perfection. Whatever that is can never be damaged. Whatever that is does not exist in time. It doesn't exist in space. It doesn't exist in accordance with the kind of laws of the intellect, the understanding of the intellect. It exists in a this is why I don't know what I'm talking about, because it exists in something that cannot be vocalized. It exists as something that cannot be vocalized. If I was to sum it up in the best possible ways, and I'd use the words that I would use when I first woke up, it would be an absolute saturation of pure infinite love. And it's in that space, the discovery of that reality is kind of seen for what it is. It's realized as being an illusion. It's realized as being a manifestation of energy. And we call it a manifestation of energy. Another word you could use for that is thought. It's two words to describe the same thing. It's a vibration. Each thought is a vibration. Well, you are infinite frequency potential. That's who and what everything is. That's what we are. But we get so we locate ourselves because the intellect loves measurement. The soul doesn't measure. The soul has zero measurement. It's not judging how well we're doing spiritually. It's not judging how much we've fucked up. It's not resenting us in any way. It loves. All it does is it just loves. I don't know what love is. I have no idea what love is. It's that creates all things. If I know something, it's a concept. Love is not a concept. And I often liken it to water. It's like water feels wet. We're familiar with the feeling of wet for water, but water's so much more than the feeling of wet. Love is so much more than just a beautiful feeling. It's that creates the dream. It's that allows the dream to take place. And it's who and what we truly are. beyond the facade of this illusory story. And so when people awaken, that seems to get more activated in people, and people start to, where they once perhaps would value, like myself, or speak for myself, where I once valued my capacity to intimidate, to kind of manipulate people with fear, to be aggressive and to desire to take for myself, all of a sudden I realized no, love is my superpower. All that hard man was created from fear, it was created from insecurity. But that insecurity died the moment I found love, because it was seen for what it was. It was a story, it was an illusory self. But the love was the overriding factor that kind of has carried me since 2013. Like I fell in love with people. That wasn't on my agenda. I hated people. We were cancer on this planet. We needed to be removed from this planet so nature could come back. No, we are nature. We are a creature that is on this planet. We know nothing about ourselves. Mankind did not invent mankind. We are such a mystery to ourselves, but it's so much of it comes from our lack of spiritual perspective, our lack of spiritual awareness. And the more like it's awakening isn't the goal, it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's just the beginning of a new tier of reality, I suppose, that we then experience and grow through as we as we live. If any of that makes any sense.
When you speak, it feels like, and this is just my perception, it feels like one morning you woke up, you saw something, and that was it. You know, that's how it feels when you speak of this. And I'm curious to know if what I'm hearing is true, first of all. And if it felt like that to you.
Yeah. So my first, like, I had two experiences within 6 months of each other that really shifted my world. The first one was I got into a fight up in Scotland and I set off walking home back to the Lake District, 400 miles, pissed out my head. And about 6 miles into this walk, I left my body and I went into another reality. And in this reality, there was somebody there, and her name was Lucy. I didn't see her form, but she made herself very, very apparent to me, and she gave me her name. And before I knew it, again, the love cannot be spoken. It cannot be spoken. What that space that exists before and after life cannot be spoken. It really highlights to me the how we've become so intellect heavy. We've depended so much on the intellect. Now the intellect really isn't, it's a tool, it's not who we are. But that was my first experience, and then I had to come back. I say I had to come back because I came back. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay there. It was wonderful. I cried, and I begged to be taken back. If I'd been taken back, somebody would have found my body in the middle of the road. But it wouldn't have mattered. It would have mattered to my family, it would have mattered to my friends, but it doesn't matter. You know, what we think of as death really isn't, it's a really, really beautiful transition. It's not, you don't go anywhere. It already exists within ourself. It's a presence within ourself. It's not a thing. It's not a
Not a time, it's
move.
not a place.
No, it's a movement, if you like. It's a movement. It's a shift into a new space of reality or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I realized was it took me 2 days to remember that experience. And when I remembered, because I was so hungover the next day, when I remembered I was walking home and I remembered this Lucy thing. And I said, Lucy, if you're real, get me home quickly and safely. And before I turned around and a car stopped, I, I got home back to the Lake District. Every single car stopped first time. One of them was my sister, who I didn't know was actually on a honeymoon. I was estranged from her family at this point. And she had come to look for me on the Isle of Skye. And as I got out of a car, because they'd reached the end of their point where they were giving me a lift, and this car stopped, just stopped and said, "Do you need a lift?" I was like, "Yes, please." I had a black eye and all kinds of shit. As I got out of that car, my sister pointed at me and went, and I saw her mouth to her husband, "There he is." She turned around, picked me up, and she took me down to the next junction. And she said, "I'm not getting out. I'm not leaving you here until I see you get a lift." And I knew fine well I was being watched by Lucy. I knew fine well that something was being lined up. And the moment I got out of the car and I put my thumb out, a lady stopped. I was a man, big bloke with a black eye. And this girl stopped. She was a French girl. And God bless her, we had the best time chatting all the way down halfway through Scotland. And then I got out and long story short, I got home. But one of the things that I realized was whenever I asked Lucy for help, things seemed to fall into place. And it had dawned on me one day as a man who was diagnosed with chronic depression I would have for life and felt like a bit of a death sentence. And I was medicated and told I would never get over depression. I was told that I'd always have depression. It dawned on me, Luce, would there be any chance of some happiness, do you think? And a couple of days later, I got a phone call. I was a tree surgeon and I got a job to go and look at this tree. And when I went round to look at this tree, there wasn't a tree in this lady's garden. And so I knocked on the door. I was thoroughly pissed off. I could do anger like 0 to 60. I do 0 to 200 in 0.1 of a second. I was livid. I was like, piss wet through, cold, tired. I'm like, where's this tree at? She was like, it's over there. I said, have you got permission? She said, no. She said, come inside, sit down, make me a cup of tea. Her name's Sue Huginson. She lives in Windermere, just up the road. And she just told me, she said, if I told you why I had to get here, you wouldn't have come. So what do you mean? If I told you why I had to get you, you wouldn't have come, would you? And I said, why have you got me here? She said, because I've been told I need to teach you something. And I said, who's told you what? She said, the universe, Dave. The universe has told me to get in touch with you. Then I remembered. Okay. And she's the lady who introduced me to Sid Banks. Took me 9 weeks to hear something. I thought I knew what she was talking about. I thought I understood. I thought I got it. But then one day I listened to Sid and I went for a walk and I had another very this you asked me the question, was it and like almost like you almost asked me the question, was it like a night and day shift?
Yeah.
I stood on the side of this fell. I saw a jackdaw. The jackdaw looked at me. I was watching the jackdaw as it looked at me, and I can't explain what happened. Time didn't exist. I could travel at will. I went and visited a woodland that I didn't even know where it was till couple of years ago now. I found it. And this woodland's 3 miles from where I'm stood. About roughly 3 miles from where I'm stood. Never been in it in my life, but I saw it as I was driving. I was like, that's what I saw there. That's it. I remembered it. And I went into an experience of a conversation with a girlfriend that I was with at the time, and it was a very tricky relationship. And I watched her tangle me up in a conversation. Now, this wasn't a memory, this wasn't me remembering, it was like me in the now with you right here, right now. I was in the present moment with this person. I watched what this girl did to me. She tangled me up so cleverly and so quickly that it was my fault what had happened. And I remember thinking at the time and the other time that it actually happened before that, that how is this my fault? But you seem to be right. And I got to stand there in actual time, but from a completely neutral perspective, no kind of what a bitch or anything like that. It was just this is what's happening. I got to see it clear as day. And then I could see my body stood upright on the side of the road from a field perspective. I was looking at my body and I was just kind of moving around it. And then there was one point where I actually got in the car and I was driving away, and I was looking at myself through the window. And I don't know, this was the point at which everything changed. I can't explain why a version of me died. The story of Dave died, that vulnerable man, insecure man, that hard man, that man that wasn't good enough died. It died because of that experience. Again, the overriding thing within that experience was one of love. It's all love. Um, I remember going home, and I don't remember much about that day at all. I don't remember, but I remember my father walking in saying, "How are you doing, son?" In his usual "I'm worried about you" kind of tone. I went, "Yeah, really well, Dad. Really well." Like, what? I said, "I'm really well." What? He thought I was mental. He thought I was on drugs. Thought I joined a cult. Um, so for me personally, yeah, it was a night and day. It was like I walked on a brand new world. It was then that now having had that experience, I know what I understand that, if we want to have a different life, we need to stop trying to fix ourselves. It's just an old version of ourselves. What we need to do is leave it behind. How do you do that? You do that by we we accept him. And this is just, it's just noise that I'm speaking now. It's just noise because you can't do it. It just happens. And it happens to people who, when they listen to truth, there is something that takes place within them that recognizes it. And from that point on, it's almost like because the attention falls upon it, it expands. Where we give our attention, we get a full-blown experience. We shift our attention at will all the time. And wherever we focus our attention, we get the experience of. That's what our reality becomes. It's what we experience. And it's almost like when we listen to these conversations, if somebody is listening to this conversation, it's because they're ready to move up a notch, ready to move up a step. And you wouldn't be interested if you weren't, and if you haven't had a shift, then that's because you're perfect, you are exactly where you're meant to be. Do not be despondent. There's nothing to be despondent about. You are exactly where you're meant to be. You are perfectly in position to learn what needs to be experienced, to have the experience of whatever is to be experienced in that strata, that layer of strata of reality. But in discovering that space within myself and seeing the wholeness of it, it was discovering the wholeness of everybody else and everything else at the same time, and seeing that the 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 suffering. I was occasionally I get messages like I had a message that said, the further you go into suffering, the further into unreality you have entered. I remember thinking to myself, yeah, so simple, so true. The true reality is one of love. The true reality isn't one of suffering. Suffering is something that we create through ignorance on this earthly plane. You know, and when we go home back to that space, it there is no suffering. Suffering doesn't exist in that dimension. There is just love. Just love.
It's almost like you're seeing through the form that is thought. Like when you say, if you want to change yourself, it's not about fixing anything, just about letting go of that version and then creating a new one, essentially, right? Because we're the creators. We created the first one,
That's right.
you know, and I mean, I'm assuming since then, like this happened to you in 2013, so it's already, a decade plus, right? You've talked to many people since. The reason why I was asking you was because for me it felt like, for you, like when I hear you speak, I can feel that it was almost like a boom, and it was like day or night. For me, it's like it's a gradual thing that I kind of keep seeing. And then I was like, but I saw that when I was 20. And then I see, like I kind of like just see it again, but see it deeper. I see it again and I see it deeper. And then I can very easily go into my head and start saying, well, I want a day or night thing. Like I want to compare myself to it. But I love what you said when you said, no, you're exactly where you need to be.
Exactly where you need to be. And that is, that is something I encourage anybody just to, if you're feeling despondent, you're feeling like you're not good enough, that's not coming from your soul. I need to be somewhere higher. I need to be more evolved. I need to be more spiritual. You can't be more spiritual. If people are looking for the spiritual experience, look to the moment, look to the now. That's where it is. It's in the here and the now. I often say another word for the now is God, or another word for God is the now. The now is the very moment of creation. Creation is only taking place now. It's not taking place in the future or the past. My experience showed me that I could go into the past in the now, but it wasn't the past, it was the now. Absolutely clear as day. We think in linear time, we think in one step after another, oh, back up a step. We think in physicality. No, we don't. Our mind isn't a physical thing. It's not even a quantum thing. It's something that exists in dimensional essence. It's dimensional essence, and within this dimensional essence is infinite potential, infinite capacity, infinite being. It can be anything. It can take form into any way. Sid Banks, I remember listening to him say, the dream state, as in fast asleep in bed state, is closer to the truth than the awake state. It's absolutely true. In the dream state, anything is possible. In the awake state, we live in a state of limitation because we believe in the limitation of the human physicality. There is no limitation. The only limitation is a belief, is an idea. But yeah, going back to your point as well, it's like people have said to me that they want my experience, and I'll ask them, what does it look like? And they'll give me a story of what it looks like. I'll go, no, it wasn't that. But people make up these ideas, and because we made it up, it looks real. Why? Because our mind creates the reality we experience, so we assume that it's true reality. But when it comes to it, and people are having these kind of incremental steps, I tell them, what my experience of awakening was not easy. I lost a lot of friends. I became very lonely. my family didn't know me. And because they were afraid, because they didn't know me, they became afraid. They battled me. And it was hard. But I feel like when people have these incremental, and I'll tell you, it took a couple of years for it to settle down. Now, my family, thankfully, every single one of them fully support the work we do. My family has changed so much. They don't fight me, they listen. We have most beautiful conversations now. But it took a couple of years. They come to our retreats and like hearing praise from my father, which is something I never used to get. Hearing praise from my father and my father saying stuff to me like, son, that was amazing. My father never used to give me praise. You know, again, I can see that my family is shifting. The consciousness is shifting on this planet. My family's changing. But I often say to people, these incremental steps are kinder. You get to have a shift, settle down, find your balance, take your next step, take your shift, balance. That's not what happened for me. It was just like, there goes your life. Right. You are not that man anymore. That man's gone. Make your way in this world. And I was fortunate in that the guiding thing that guided me through it was love. And that's something that I wholeheartedly allow in every single day. I actively seek to love every single day. Um, yeah,
Well, Dave,
it's,
it was
that's the healing thing.
it's a beautiful conversation. Yet again, I knew we would have a great conversation. We've busted our time, like
Oh, we love.
we did. But I
Yeah.
still want to like you talk about retreats, and I'm going to put in the description that people can go to freedomthinking.co.uk to reach out to you in any way, shape, or form. But is there anything, like I know you have community groups, you do Zoom calls, right?
Yeah.
Do Zoom groups?
Yeah. So every week we do it via donation. We do it via donation. So if people have got money, they can listen. If people haven't got money, they can listen. We just try and make it available to people. We do it via donation because we need to live. We still live on this planet as a human being. Um, we need the money to fuel our vehicles and pay our bills and whatnot. Yeah, so we do that every Monday. And if people are interested in that, they can get in touch with us at info@freedomthinking.co.uk, or they can look us up on Facebook at Freedom Thinking, where they can join and we put out about what we're doing. We got a retreat in May in Morocco with a couple of other people, which is pretty good value actually. I think it's 650 quid for I think it's 5 or 6 nights. Forgive me. Um, yeah, that'll be a really beautiful event. I think it's on the very west of Morocco. So yeah, that's something we're really looking forward to. We're doing another online retreat next month, and then hopefully in May we're going to have another in-person retreat, possibly in Suffolk, in England.
Okay. Well, if you want to send me the information, I'll talk. When we get off, I'll explain to you how I would like you to submit the information,
Yeah.
because every month I do one episode at the beginning of the month where I talk about events that are happening and I give links for people to go
Okay.
sign.
Oh, bless you, Jazz. That's so kind, love.
Okay, so I'll talk after this. But listen, I wanted to thank you so much for booking this call, because I know that it was a request that I sent out and you booked it. So I was looking forward to it. I knew we were going to have a beautiful conversation.
No,
So
thank you, Jasmine. Look, thank you for everything you do. You know, it's a great world when we all pull together.
Yeah, it is.
That's the way we're going. We're going back to common unity, community.
Well, thank you. And everybody else who's listening, I'm going to say, dream it, dare it, do it, live the life you want. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.